I want to grow a ton of sweet potatoes this year, but slugs love my sweet potato vines. So I'm on a quest to find out which is the best way and the most successful way of getting rid of slugs in my garden. Hi, I'm Debbie, and welcome to my organic garden.
All I have needs, I have not provided.
Like most of your garden pests, you're going to see the evidence that they've been here before you actually see the pest. If killing slugs bothers you, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. I've only seen them be destructive. So a slug is not an insect. It's a gastropod, a terrestrial gastropod, which means a snail without a shell, and it crawls around on the earth. Slugs do their dirty work at night, and so you've got to get out early in the morning before they go back into hiding. So we're going to see the evidence first, and then we're going to find some slugs. First of all, we look for evidence. When you have holes chewed in your leaves, that's telling you they're around here somewhere doing their dirty work. So the first way we're going to get rid of slugs is simply pick them off. Now, slugs are really gross. Not only are they gross looking, but they're very, very slimy. And when you try to crush them, they slip out of your hand. So I'm going to pile them up here in this terracotta plate here, and I'm just going to pick them off. Is that gross or what? So I'm going to pick off the whole leaf and just pile it up here. And I'm going to go find some more. Look here, we've got one here and one underneath. So the first way to get rid of slugs is simply pick them off. So for me, I can either take it over to a hard surface, which is my driveway, or watch the chickens eat them. There you go, girls and boys. When I was a little girl, I remember my grandfather saying the best way to get rid of slugs is to sprinkle some salt on them. Well, I've never tried that, so I'm going to today, and look what I found. Ew. The granddaddy of them all, but perfect to find out. Does sprinkling salt on them kill them? So here we go. It works. Gross, but it works. It also means that you still have to hand pick those things off of your leaves every morning. And I've been doing that several times a week for a couple of weeks now, and it seems to be working to some degree. I'm finding less and less slugs in my sweet potatoes, but I'm obviously missing some. So on to the next thing I want to try, and that is slug traps. The slug traps really work. The supplies you need are really simple. So your first cut is going to be, I'd say, about 1 inch. Here, make it about 1 inch or so deep, maybe 3/4 of an inch. So you're basically making it about 1/3 of the way around the cup. Okay. The first cut is going to be made with a blade or some kind of sharp instrument. So when you poke it, it's not going to collapse your cup when you poke it. Now don't put your finger behind there to feel where it's going in, because these cups are tough, and when you apply that pressure, it does go in there pretty quick. Okay? And that's all you need with your blade for now. And I'm trying to make this as easy as I can on myself. So making those little X cuts just make this a bit easier to cut around. Okay, that's one window. Across the way here, you want to make the other window. So I'm going to come right about here. And judging from here, let me go about that far. Okay, so we've got a window on either side here. The next cup, on this cup, we're going to poke those holes. You don't need a lot. Okay, that should be enough. We're going to add the lid. Put a little piece of tape over that hole. What we're going to do now is mark the cup that's on the inside using the outer cup as our template. Okay, now we're going to cut that out right there. See how far away from the top it is? That's why we got to use that cup as our template. Okay, that works. That's done, and I have made 10 bars for those nasty things to go visit. And I hope they have a lot of fun doing it. So what are we going to put in here? I happen to think that beer is really nasty, and I don't like spending the money on any kind of beer. And it is expensive. So I did a little bit of research, and I found out you don't absolutely have to use beer. Now, if you happen to have spare beer around, or you know a place where you can get it really, really cheap, that's fine. But here is an alternative that's going to work. I hope. This is an experiment, but this is what my research says will work. It's really not the alcoholic content that the slugs are attracted to. It's the yeast in the beer that attracts them. So knowing that, water, a little bit of flour, give it a good stir. Add some sugar. I don't think you need a lot, just enough to activate that yeast, which is right here. And since this is an experiment, I really don't have proportions to tell you, but I think that's about a half a teaspoon. So we're going to do about half with the beer and half with this mixture. And when we go check those traps tomorrow morning and for a couple of days, we're going to find out which works better, if at all. Well, I was out here this morning, and that gave me all day to think about this. When I uncovered all those slugs in the beans, it really got me to thinking. So I also did some research about that too. Slugs like to go hide during the day where it's cool and dark, and that is where their little slug hotel was. So the other thing that I learned is that slugs, well, if I'm going to put traps, I really don't want to attract the slugs to the areas that I don't want them in. So I'm going to place the traps slightly away from the crops, in this case, the sweet potato vines that you want them to go to. So I'm going to do that. And I'm also doing another little experiment. So here is an old board, and I have laid it across the walkway from my sweet potato vines. And I'm going to look underneath the board in the morning and see if any of them have migrated to spend the day underneath the board. I already know that they like the bean plants, so I'm thinking right down in here is where I'm going to put 1 cup of the yeast mixture and 1 cup over here with beer, and we'll see what we get. So to differentiate which cups have the beer and which don't, I picked out 5 sticks. I'm going to mark the ones with beer with a stick. And that way, maybe we can determine, does the beer work better or does the yeast mixture work better? So we want to bury this right to that depth right there. Well, day 1, traps have been in the ground for overnight. And so let's see if they work. So I have 2 different containers so that we can see if the beer works better or if the yeast works better. So I'm going to put the ones found in yeast in this bowl, and the ones found in the beer, as indicated by my stick, will go into this tray here. Let's see if we have anybody in here. Oh, there is big slugs in here. Aye. So we got 2 in that one. Well, there you have it. They're a tie. Well, to say the very least, I'm not impressed. That was a lot of work and expense. Hi, look, they're right down there. For just 4 of them. So I'm going to go check and see if the wood plank worked. Let's see. Turn it over. Oh, there's one. There's another one. That's it. Right here. And right here. The sun's coming up, and I'm going to go check all the vines again, and we'll see if hand picking is the winner. Kind of think it will be, but we'll see. I've been through the whole garden, and I only found 2 more, and they're small. So I'm starting to draw some conclusions here, but let's give it a couple more days, and then let's talk about it. It's been 2 days. Let's go check the traps. Well, it looks to me like the adult ones were attracted to the beer. I think that's kind of funny. When I was checking the traps down in the Ford hook vines, they weren't in the traps, but they were all in the vines. I didn't even try to collect them. Just take all those vines out, and I removed them far away from here. So I just wonder if I was encouraging the growth of slugs by having vines that were not being useful anyway. Now that that's gone, I need to be checking my vines really regularly. That was the grossest video I hope I ever have to make, but it had to be done. You don't want slugs in your sweet potato vines. Let's talk about a couple of things that I didn't cover in the video. One was I heard about eggshells being a great deterrent. I don't believe it. They crawl across crushed asphalt just fine. Now, I speeded up this video, but if they can crawl across that, I think they can crawl across crushed eggshells. And how many crushed eggshells would it take for my garden? That's not going to work. There is a product that is effective, and it's diatomaceous earth. It does get rid of slugs, but I have too big of an area to cover. It's not cost effective, so that one is crossed off the list too. What about the board trap? It does work. It's not real effective for me, so I'm going to leave that board out in the garden. It's not hurting anything, and I did pick off a couple from that this morning, so I'm going to just leave it. A big surprise for me was to find all those slugs in my Ford hook vines. It should have been named Slug Hotel. I mean, they were all in it. So instead of looking for them inside, I just pulled them all up and hauled them far away from the garden. And hopefully that's going to take care of a big population of my slug problem. The other thing that we tried is salt. Not only is it super gross, it's really not practical either. I mean, you're going to have to find them and pick them anyway. So why not just hand pick them and go crush them somewhere? Let's talk about the traps. Aren't you glad that I was the one to go to all the trouble to buy the beer and the cups with lids, make them, just to show you they are effective, but not all that great. And besides, those cups were already starting to break down on day number 3, and they would have to be replaced soon. So that's not as effective as I would have liked to have seen them. So I don't consider that very effective, and certainly not cost effective. You decide whether that's something you want to do. And the number one winner, go out early in the morning and hand pick them. Then dispose of them the best way you can. I was feeding them to the chickens, but they got tired of them really quick. Apparently the hens had grabbed them all up the first time, but by the second time they didn't want them, and it gave the rooster a chance to try it. He picked one up, put it back down, and went and wiped his face off. I don't blame him. So there was that. The chickens don't want them, so I take mine out to the crushed asphalt and I grind them in. That's the best way that works for me. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Check out the links I have below. I really appreciate your support. Walk through your garden first thing in the morning. There's so much that you can learn, and it's a great time to just be in fellowship with the Lord. Thanks for watching.
Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.